Welcome to Braindrop by VCOM Solutions. Each episode, we talk to IT leaders and experts, explore recent projects, and learn from their triumphs and challenges. We hope today's episode provides you with a unique window into the world of IT, where creativity meets problem solving and technology drives businesses forward. I'm your host, Jethro Castillo. Now let's drop into today's conversation. Today on Braindrop by VCOM Solutions, I am joined by Paul Yater, the CIO and head of human resources at 84 Lumber, a prominent $8.7 billion privately held national building materials supplier. With over 310 locations across the United States and a team of 7,000 plus associates, Paul has played a pivotal role in shaping the technological and organizational landscape of this industry giant over the last 7 years. Paul has over 3 decades of experience in information technology and strategic systems implementation, and has proven time and time again that he can deliver business value and align technology agenda with business needs. Paul, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
So we're going to talk for a bit about tech. But tech does not consume our lives. Maybe it does for you. I don't know. But other than tech, what kind of fills your life?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a father of 4, so family is key and important. I've got 4 kids, and one's a senior in college, one's a sophomore in college, one's a senior in high school, and one's a sophomore in high school. So sports and travel and watching the kids and doing all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty much what fills the other moments in between. I did a little coaching along the way there and things like that. So team sports is probably, along with family, are probably the 2 things.
Did you grow up playing sports yourself?
I did. A baseball and football guy.
Oh, nice. Who are your?
But I got a basketball family though, so I got a little bit of. Yeah. My wife was a college basketball player, and my son He plays football in college actually, and then my sophomore daughter is going to play in college as well.
Oh, so. It's a fully sports. It's a real sports team. It's sports family.
We got it.
Yeah, awesome. That's awesome.
But we bleed black and gold. To be honest with you, it's a Pittsburgh. We're Pittsburgh. We're based in Pittsburgh. Born and raised in Pittsburgh. So, Steelers, Pirates, Penguins, really make it happen around here.
I just realized when you said black and yellow, it's all of their teams.
All 3 teams, yeah. Also, all the teams in the town are black and gold.
Is that intent?
Gold, not yellow.
Be sorry, you're right. Yeah. That's right. Sorry, I was thinking of the Wiz Khalifa song, and it says black and yellow. I wonder.
You're right.
I wonder if the Pittsburgh community is like, that's not. We don't identify.
No. We do Wiz. Wiz is okay. He did the Winter Classic. He was at the Winter Classic when the Penguins had it here a couple of years ago. So he's Pittsburgh born and raised, and we love our own. So. That's
really cool unity for a city to all have the same color.
It's pretty unique and pretty cool. Yeah,
that is.
It's funny. It's funny. You'll see people at one of the other sports with the other jersey on, which is kind of crazy. Like you'll see somebody at a Penguins game with a Steelers jersey on, right? Because it just works, right? Same colors.
That really has blown my mind. I feel so obvious that every place should do that, but it
should do that, right? Yep.
I was born and raised in the Bay Area, so I have the Giants and the A's, and then I have the Warriors, and then I have the 49ers, and then the Raiders at one point. So we have a lot of different teams there. But I was a basketball person.
There you go.
I feel very lucky over the last decade and a half-ish to have the team we had. And I'm not gonna complain about that. So
yep. Your March Madness too, can't complain. It's a good time of year.
Oh, so. Great time of year. All right. We this is not the topic of the podcast, but I always like to hear that and talk about sports, honestly. So let's jump into the questions, and let's start with you. We talked a little bit about this before we started, but let's kind of jump into it now. How did you get started in the world of IT 3 decades ago?
It's interesting. Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. I'm not an IT. I mean, I'm a liberal arts grad, right? So I'm a policy and management studies and poli-sci double major at a liberal arts school. So not necessarily by trade. Did some programming in high school and things like that, but really it was that liberal arts and that critical thinking stuff. And first job out of college was at a bank and did a little bit of the technology stuff, but then got a call about some consulting stuff. And first real technology entree was at IBM. And in their SAP consulting division. So I was in SAP in the early innings of the SAP ERP wave. So that really, got me into the technology side and, just learned my way up, if you will. And then later in my career, did my MBA in strategy and information systems, so got a little bit more depth. But it's sort of been a bit of a learning. I would argue if you are a solid the soft skills matter as much as some of the hard skills in IT.
Well, it's interesting because not a lot, but some of the guests that I talk to who are at your level, the majority of the answers actually are, I did not start with IT.
Sure.
Because I guess at the level that you're at now, there's a lot of communication and the ability to
Absolutely
to turn technology into business value. And that's a completely different skill set than just learning how to work with tech and IT. And so
Yep.
It's very interesting, but you really did nothing with your liberal arts. I don't want to insult the education that you had, but it was more like a...
Yeah, I mean, my argument, my comeback to that would be, I think it taught me how to think critically and logically and solve problems. And the communication side of it is what has served me well in my career. So, I think those skills, while I didn't learn Python programming in college, I did learn how to think and how to logically put things together, how to solve problems, how to put together a plan,
absolutely,
how to strategize, and how to analyze situations critically and things like that. So,
and I would say also how to continue learning, because then
absolutely,
when you went into your next 100%. Role without any collegiate experience, you were able to quickly learn on the spot and then continue to grow. And now you're here, right? So,
absolutely,
I'm with you there. This is not a childhood dream to work in IT. Like you said, it kind of fell into your lap and you kind of developed and grew that career. And so I'm actually very interested in this answer. What is your favorite part about working in IT?
I think it's really, it's the people. So it's the people that you get to work with. But then as a technology service provider or a technology, finding ways to help people with technology, right? How do you help them do their job better? How do you help them be more productive? How do you solve problems? And really just finding ways to leverage technology to solve business problems and become more productive and help grow the business. And, being part of the strategy and the approach and those kind of things are critically important, right? So that's what you've got to be able to do in this kind of a role. And I think that's what gets me out of bed every day is we're finding ways to solve problems and help folks and, just find ways to leverage technology and make people better.
You mentioned, with your liberal arts education, learned how to think analytically, learned how to learn all of that. IT moves faster than any other industry in any other department within an organization. So it's almost a nonstop job. At least that's what I've found, because you always have to be learning. And so where do you kind of go to stay up to date and make sure you can provide that business value?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of places. I mean, I think a voracious reader, so just staying connected, reading industry articles, publications, things like that. So staying connected to what's happening in the industry, what are others doing, staying really connected with our technology vendors. What is their roadmap? Right. What are they looking at? Where are they headed? Sharing our roadmap with them. What are we trying to solve? Where do we think we're headed? And finding those common grounds between them. Staying connected with the CIO community locally and nationally. Just what problems are other people solving? How are they addressing them? Everybody's talking about cybersecurity. Everybody's talking about AI. How are you leveraging that? What are you thinking about? What do your pilots look like? How are you doing proof of concepts? I think industry events as well, things like that, where you can hopefully find some non-competitive ways to share ideas. I think there's lots of people technology people tend to want to talk about it and are a little less, we're not talking about margin and we're not talking about profitability but it's, what problems are you solving? What projects are you working on? What are you trying to get through? How can you help one another? Right. This technology profession seems to be willing to share those ideas and it really becomes a community. So I think staying connected to that community is one way that I've been able to do that. And then just reading. Like, I'm a big Flipboard guy. It's probably my favorite app on my iPhone is Flipboard. And their algorithm is phenomenal about, serving up the right content to get me to the place that I want to be.
Oh, interesting. That's a new recommendation actually. So I'm actually because I'm always trying to figure out new ways because as a marketing person, I have to kind of learn to create and I need to consume information. And so I got to try.
Because it's more article based than social media. Like I'm a social media guy too. Like I get it, right? I got all the rest of them too, but Flipboard is more of a content provider is what I would say. And the algorithm is phenomenal. Like you just tell stuff what you like and what you're interested in and it'll serve up and you can just flip through. Okay, yeah, these ones are good. And as you teach it, it learns, right? Yeah. So it's pretty cool. Very personalized.
Algorithms are, scary, but also kind of a cheat. It's really cool. It's really cool to.
It is pretty cool.
It knows you better than you know you sometimes, and so it helps you. Helps you just discover what your interests actually are. Which reminds me, this is now back to the original question, or the question before this. I feel like, and I don't know the time frame of this, so forgive me for my ignorance. I feel like just a few years ago, IT, this is not the most verbose way to say this, eloquent way to say this. IT feels cooler today than it did a few years ago, a few decades ago. I feel like IT used to be behind the curtain and now it's at the table. And maybe that's AI, maybe that's the advancement of technology to the point where it's more crucial than ever. I saw you kind of thinking about what I had just said there. Do you have any thoughts on that?
And I agree. I mean, I think the digital wave, so the e-commerce wave, the digital wave sort of helped that become, everybody knew that they needed to at least, maybe they weren't going to become a technology company, but if they weren't on the technology wave, they were going to fall behind, right? I spent a lot of time in retail. E-commerce drove a lot of that, right? If you weren't trying to figure out how to become digital, how to become e-commerce, how to become omni-channel, that brought together that sort of, okay, I need technology people who can also understand the business and drive business strategy with technology, and they have to be aligned. And, you got things like chief digital officers and chief technology officers that arose out of that made it became board level conversations to answer your question maybe a little more directly. But I think that 2000.com bubble probably started some of it, and coming out of that, finding ways to drive technology. So yeah, I think it used to be MIS and, all that kind of stuff. And it was a bunch of programmers that you sort of, threw the requirements over the wall and, just called them when you needed to report or whatever, or made the mainframe run, that kind of stuff, right? A big computer room with all the glass that nobody knew what happened back there. And it's really become more of a seat at the table and a partner and a trusted advisor. And, you've got things like cybersecurity and now AI and your e-commerce strategy and omni-channel and social digital along with it. I mean, it's just all converged, for lack of a better term, right?
Right. And I can only imagine that 2021 and COVID and the need to work remotely also kind of spearheaded the communication and cloud.
Yeah, collaboration and communication tools. I mean, I sometimes I joke, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. We had just rolled out Teams and SharePoint and all that kind of stuff about a quarter before that. And luckily we had it all in place and had some level of muscle memory in the organization of using the tools. So, it wasn't sort of this crisis scramble as much as the rest of the world was in crisis. Right. The rest of everything else was going on. But yes, I agree. The collaboration tools and the communication and the, bringing it together and finding ways that, bring people together that aren't all in the same locations was critically important to continue to move the ball forward during COVID for sure.
And that was only 3 years ago. I forget that. This is all so new in terms of how we've progressed in technology.
It's like dog years, right? Yeah, you forget those COVID years were like dog years.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. It is. It's completely mind blowing to me. But yeah, it's been more exciting, at least for me lately with IT and tech. For you, what are you most excited about when it comes to, this industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think AI really has the potential to change, which probably sounds, like the cool thing to say in these days, but I really do believe it has. I don't think that's bright, shiny object kind of stuff. I think there's truly transformational capabilities that are going to come out of this, Exactly where, how to get started and what to do and where the value is going to be, I don't know. But I think piloting, trying to figure out what your use cases are, it seems to be around pulling together data initially from different disparate sources. And some people are looking at it for customer service. And there's lots of places where it can play. We're actually looking at it to figure out if we can use AI to translate some of our legacy code and then do some code modernization projects, which is pretty cool. So that's a real no kidding, application of something like that. But really just trying to educate and learn and understand and figure out, okay, I'm not going to use it to replace my ERP tomorrow necessarily, maybe, but what can I do? How can I, everybody's trying to figure out how to use it and what can it do? And, having lots of conversations with other folks. I'm on a customer advisory board for actually our healthcare provider. And, they had their chief digital officer and chief technology officer come and share with other customers. And I've spent some time with them on, we're in healthcare, where we're in building materials, construction, retail, and they're in healthcare, but there's some similar problems and where can you apply it? And what are you thinking about? So I really think it's going to change the world. I think, understanding it, embracing it. Sure. Well, we have to put guardrails up. Do we have to make sure it's got, like anything else, right? It has to be understood and managed and maintained and protected, and data security, privacy, all the things that will have to come with. But I really see the potential of just the productivity and what it could do with, how it could help people do their jobs and be more productive, I think is got some real potential.
Yeah. On that note, and I think this kind of revealed itself during some of my other conversations. IT is in a relatively interesting position, at least from my point of view, where IT gets, I guess you could say, the short end of the stick, where it's like sometimes people think that the IT team can be a barrier to innovation, right? Because of cybersecurity, you have to lock down and make sure certain things don't get breached or something like that, where you need single sign-on or you need a lot of authentication, and that can like slow down the process for people. So, but it's crucial, right? So I
Sure.
guess a twofold question. The first is, how do you balance innovation and protection? How do you not be the bad guy while also not being so free that you lose what you need to protect?
Yeah. I mean, I think a couple of things there. I mean, I think having some kind of structure that people understand why, what's the why and why you're trying to protect it, right? Well, we're trying to protect the asset. It's become easier to do that because there's been so many breaches and it's so pervasive and people, and it's the right level of conversation. So there's less of sort of, you're the audit police and you're the anchor on the boat like that you used to be, as to the, okay, look, we really understand this. We've seen what some of the costs of a data breach can be. So we do that has really turned in the last 3 to 5 years, I would say, as well, from an understanding. And okay, we've seen customers this happen to, partners this happen to, other people in our industry this happen to. We get that this is real. So they're not, for lack of a better term, we've sort of seen people get religion around that. So it's become easier for one. I think the other way is to start small and pilot, right? So let's not do it with something that, let's not pick, personally identifiable information or credit cards or, whatever records that we would, be at most risk for.
Sure.
Where can we do this? Maybe we do it internally first, less customer facing. What can we start with in a pilot? If we're trying to innovate with AI, right? Like let's do it. Let's eat our own dog food kind of thing first, right? And try to do that with something small and figure it out, and then grow it from there. And if it's small and we can contain it, then it doesn't have to be industrial strength security around it, because I'm not putting it on the internet or it's not in a DMZ, that kind of stuff, right? So those are other things we've tried to do, is get the ideas generated and start the thought process, and then try to prioritize and put the guardrails around it as it scales and grows.
I think that's a really interesting point because I don't know. I feel like with the speed of tech and its evolution, it feels like we also need to just move as fast as that. But you basically have said like, oh no, the best way to implement, you have to start small and grow in order to not leave people behind or alienate them.
Sure.
And I guess AI might make all of this a lot easier too in terms of prioritization. But I don't know. This is the next question I get, but I'm kind of scared of the point where it's like, oh, technology is moving faster than we can keep up.
Yeah, it's a fair question. I mean, you got to keep running fast on this treadmill, right? Because it is. If you don't keep running, you're going to fall behind. But I think it is just, at the end of the day, it's still going to be solving business problem and finding business value. Yeah. So it's not going to, like, you've got to prioritize, right? Sure, there's going to be ideas. You're going to put all these ideas into the funnel, and you've got to have some way to sort that innovation and not stifle the innovation, but you can't launch 1,000 canoes at the same time either, right? You've got to have goals. You've got to have objectives. You've got to have a strategy. It's got to be tied to business outcomes. You got to understand the connections. And I think those connections are important in putting together the strategy and the approach as to how are you going to leverage this? Where's it going to bring value? How do we understand where to put the time and the resources and the innovation, and where, what are the biggest problems we're trying to solve? How might this help that? Those kind of things. What are other people doing? Is there some quick wins? Those are the kind of things you got to think about, right?
Yeah. And I appreciate you saying that, because it switches the way of thinking. At least for me, it's less, oh, look at all this new technology, let's figure out how we could use it. It's more like,
right,
look, here are all of our business problems in order of priority of what needs to be solved. Do we have tech out there that can solve this? And then now it doesn't matter how fast tech moves. It only matters, are you covering the business needs and the business problems effectively?
And if I could just go back to a second to the earlier question, I think if you've become the trusted advisor and the partner, and technology is part of how people are thinking about that, you're involved in that conversation early, and you're part of solving that. It's not a, hey, look, okay, we've got here, now let's go to the IT guys. It's, you're in the strategy meeting of, this is what we're trying to do. What might some of the technology solutions to that be? I think it is what makes that key. I mean, my technology saying has always been, and people, my team and my partners have heard me say this, is I don't want to do technology to you or for you. I want to do it with you.
Oh,
and I think it's holding your hand through the scary parts, and let's get to this together. And if I'm doing it to you, I'm just in your way. It's the bright shiny object. I don't know. We're waiting for the IT guys to be done. I'm doing it for you. It's kind of subservient. You don't have the skin in the game kind of thing. You're not helping to manage the change in the communication and, actually driving the business results. But if we're doing it together and we're doing it with you, I think that's what makes it, that's the magic in technology implementation.
I love whenever I talk about tech with arguably the role in tech or IT that is all about people, because it's so funny. Usually there is that dichotomy between tech and people, right? You think of tech people or engineers, it's like, oh yeah, they can just sit without talking, facing the screen and coding all day long, as a generalization. So it's just really cool, like, to hear, yeah, tech is so awesome, but it still serves people, and people comes first, and we can never forget that. And so I always love that.
No question.
Yeah,
No
absolutely. Well, I'm curious, and mainly your title has piqued my interest, but I want to, before I ask about your title, I want you to kind of talk about your IT team and environment. 84 Lumber, how long have you been there? How many team members do you have? How many employees rely on your team? Other than my introduction of it, of course.
Sure. Yep. So we're about, I don't know, maybe about 80 folks in IT. Great staff. I mean, I would tell you, that's what, if you ask me, what am I most proud of, or what do I think I'm good at, is it's picking good people and giving them the resources and the things that they need to be successful, right? I think that's the role of a technology leader, and I think that's what I've tried to do. And what we've done here is pretty interesting. We've really blended the culture of folks that were here. I mean, I've got a guy that's been here for 46 years. He's going to retire in a couple of weeks, so he's coming to the back nine, or the end of the road here. But then there's long tenured folks here, and we've brought in some new folks, and really blending the two cultures has been, the people that have been here and the people that are new. But it's all because the culture of the company is about helping people and helping our associates help our customers, and that has just driven, the blending of the two titles. So, we're 7,000 folks. We got, 80 people in IT trying to figure out how to help those across those 310 facility stores that you mentioned. But phenomenal people who really care and want to help and want to find ways to leverage technology and just help people every day. I mean, I think that's what, if you ask me, what are your IT folks, how are they wired and what gets them out of bed? It's, knowing that what they're doing every day is helping somebody in some way, and the stuff that we're building is being used and it's making a difference. And, we're in the building materials industry. We're part of building the American dream, and we're helping folks to do that every day. So we're connected to the mission, but we're providing ways and tools and means for people to be able to do that as easiest and as the best way that they can every day.
There's 80 of you?
Yeah, 80 people. We're lean and mean is what I would tell you.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. With a team of 7,000 total.
Yeah, we're about between 8 and 9 billion, depending on the year in revenue. And yeah, 7,000 folks. Yeah, we're less than 100 folks.
And 310 locations. You have 80 people to kind of manage all of that across the United States?
Yep, they are phenomenal at what they do.
Oh man, that's the A team right there. Truly.
You got it. Amen. I agree with you.
I really want to go into CIO and head of human resources. I have never seen that combination before, ever. That's not really a big saying because I'm not that experienced, but still, how did that come to be? Did you hold human resources positions earlier in any other position?
Nope. I mean, I'm an IT guy by trade. I mean, we 3 decades you mentioned earlier, and other than the last 5 years of those, it's all been in IT. But I guess I would say here's how it came about, right? So about a year and a half into this, came in with go create an IT transformation, do an assessment of where we're at, put together a roadmap and a strategy, build the team out, figure out what we need, go deliver some results. And along that way, it was really about understanding our stores and our people out in the field and building relationships and listening. I mean, one of my other things is, God gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth, and I like to use them in those ratios, right? So ask a lot of questions, but understand and listen and learn and figure out. I mean, I am not a technology for technology's sake guy. It has to be solving business problems. We're trying to create value. We're trying to figure out what we should be doing, because I don't want to do stuff that people don't need or aren't going to use, right? That's the most frustrating thing you can do to an IT person, right? Is have them work on something for some period of time and then it just is shelfware, right? So I along the way, I think, I would say I report to the chief operating officer, and, I built good relationships, and we lost the head of human resources. I can see the stress it was putting on him, and we needed him to sort of be focused on running the business and doing what he did. And, we sat down. He's like, I don't know what we're going to do about this HR thing. I'm like, hey, look, if you're willing to, I'll take a shot. Like, I'll take a swing at it. He's like, I think you could really do this. He's like, I think you could do this. So either I was either volunteered or voluntold, or I volunteered or I was selected. But I think it was just part of, hey, look, you've done some good things. We need to modernize our people and our processes. Our people are our most important asset. You've done well on technology. Could you take a look at this, what we do on the HR side and figure it out? Now, I would say two things allow somebody that's the technology guy to do the HR side. One is phenomenal leaders on the IT side that, my lieutenants who are doing this with me, able to manage this and do this. And I'm, able to spend the time on the HR side, and then having phenomenal HR people as well, where I'm doing sort of the same thing I was doing on the IT side is, what do we need? Where do we need to invest? What partners do we need? What's the strategy? How are we connected? Those kind of things. And I would tell you, no, running HR in the middle of a pandemic was not on my bucket list, but the things that don't kill you make you stronger, right?
That's right. You raised your hand and you went, I think I can do this. And then the world was like, okay, let's see. Can you do it in the hardest situation possible? Well, what does your day-to-day look like then? What goes?
It's a little crazy. I mean, I'm running between the HR and the IT side and splitting it depending on who's here and what's going on. Touch bases with the leaders, meeting with the executive committee, talking to stores, traveling to stores, spending time putting together the IT roadmap. Recruiting is a key. I mean, we hire about 3,000 or 4,000 people every year on top of that 7,000 between promotions and turnover. So, those are some of the things. I lead training and development. Got a great team there. Safety. I mean, human resource operations. It's a little bit of everything, including the IT stuff. So,
yeah, it's kind of funny because you had that liberal arts education, you left it behind for IT, and now it's kind of come back. Like it's like no, it's never gonna leave you.
Absolutely.
I still think I still think you're downplaying. I just want the people to know this is crazy to me. That's two high level positions, with a very humble answer, and I just think it's incredible. And I love how you simplified it. And I don't actually think it's, as simple as you're saying, but the idea of at your role for both of them, it's this idea of how can I empower the experts who are underneath you, let's say, to do their job better. And so in some way, like you could probably be head of finance if you wanted, head of operations if you wanted, just asking the same conceptual questions, right? How can I not be a roadblock? Sure. And how can I enable you to believe in yourself more so that our team can create what needs to be created?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, so you can go a couple ways with this question. So I'll ask it in two ways. What is a recent IT project your team took on? Or what is an IT project that you worked on that you're kind of most proud of? Why did you take it on, and what were your goals for the project? What was the value you were trying to create?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe I could pick two. So let me early on in this journey, I think there was this listening tour that we went on. I spent the first 90 days here trying to figure out, okay, how can we help? What does this need to look like? What are some of our strengths? What are some of the opportunities? Where do we need technology? And, just going to stores and watching and listening and asking questions. And I would watch somebody log into a customer system, print out a purchase order and come into our system and key it in. I'm like, wait a minute, you had to do that manually? Like, how many times a day do you do that? Right? Like, has anybody ever asked you about, like, maybe we just take it out of that system and put it in our system? And they're like, I don't know. This is what I need to do. Right? This is how we get customer stuff there. So we did a heavy integration project to map SKUs and curate data catalogs and work with our partners on the customer side to integrate data. And we've got coordinators all over the country that are, doing wonderful things to serve our sales team and support our customers. And we've given them tremendous opportunity to really add value to that relationship versus do data entry. So we freed them up to really be able to help nurture those customer relationships and support that sales team and what they need. And really now they're just looking at exceptions and dealing with the things that they should have been, we've made them more productive. So, we've probably taken it from, a 15-minute data entry on several 100,000 purchase orders a year to, a review of those purchase orders and, giving a lot of time back to the organization. So I think that's key. Another one that I think was key is we put together an enterprise data warehouse and just giving the ability to do data analytics and business intelligence and understanding. We've got area managers across those 310 locations that have, anywhere from 10 to 12 or 15 stores that they're responsible for, and giving them the ability to twist and drill into the data and look at it by customer, by product, by location, by sales associate, and spot trends and look at exceptions and really drive the growth of the business and put their people in the position to succeed and understand which products should we be chasing? Where do we have demand? What's growing? What customers are we losing? Where are we adding? Where are we gaining market share? We had a lot of that before this. I think we've just made it easier to enable and help facilitate those business decisions and those business analytics.
No, I think both. I love how the two projects are different in scope almost, and in terms of topic, but both equally important. One is helping these individuals save so much time, and another one is allowing the entire organization to make better decisions with the data that you're given, and I think that's really awesome. Throughout your career, you weren't always a CIO level sort of person, right? Obviously.
Sure. Yep.
What were some things that you learned throughout your career to make the planning, the prioritization, the delegation, the team making? What were some things you learned that you believe really helped you out in terms of, what were some hard things that you learned maybe, or some failures, or some successes that made you realize these are the things that make planning and implementation and prioritization?
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple of things. I think it is important to figure out what you're not going to do as it is to figure out what you are going to do, right? So it's hard to say no. You want to be a servant leader. You want to serve your customers if they're internal or external. You want to say yes to everything. You want to be able to say, yep, we can do that. Yep, we got that. Yep, we'll go figure that out. But, an organization can only take on so much change. With unlimited resources and unlimited dollars, the ability for the organization to digest that change and adopt that change and figure that out and be able to implement it is limited capacity, right? So you've got to be able to find that magic to say, well, how much change can we take on as an organization? How much can we manage? You just got to be very careful. So I think visibility, communication, prioritization are important. I think looking at it across business functions. So what am I doing in marketing? What am I doing in human resources? What am I doing in merchandising? What am I doing in purchasing or procurement? What am I doing in manufacturing? What am I doing in supply chain? You may be able to take a lot on as an organization. You got to look for those overlaps. So having the visibility from a project management office or PMO or whatever to looking at that and figuring that out is key. I think a couple of other things is having good partners in the business that really are willing to hold hands and do it with you, to my earlier comment. That is key as well, because you've got to align with their business priorities. Because if what's important to you, if the technology project that you're working on isn't one of their top 3 or 5 goals on their business objectives, you're probably going to have trouble getting resources or getting users to help or you're just not going to be aligned around the goals and objectives. So making sure that you're aligned to those goals and objectives and delivering on that is key as well, I think. I think the other piece is, and maybe a lesson learned is, you not only focusing on features and functions, but also how to run a project once it's up and live. So, thinking about things like purge and archive and system tuning, that scalability of it. I think as an organization grows, you've got to be focused on how do I build it to last and how do I build it to scale? And the business folks are not going to be interested in, what do you mean purge and archive? What do you mean tuning? And some of that's become easier with the cloud, and somebody's hopefully just, the magic of the cloud is somebody just managing that for you, right? But that's not always true either. You're going to hit a point of, well, look, we didn't think volume was going to do this, or, we didn't think performance was going to hit there. It's become a hard thing to predict. I mean, people have gotten better at it, but paying attention to some of those, call it the owner's manual kind of things that you got to do the 50,000 mile checkup and rotate the tires and change the oil in addition to building out features and function sets is critically important in balancing that operational excellence with that sort of, what's my transformation look like and what are all these wonderful business things I'm delivering.
Well, you really just jumped into the next question naturally already, because that's literally what I was going to ask is, it's why you have to innovate and transform and create, but then you have to maintain, uphold, and strengthen the things you have created. And so how do you balance that? And then 2, with the operations side, how do you keep that robust, strong, and mobile, able, if you will?
I think a couple of key things is, one, we tend to look at, run, grow, and transform as part of our, how do we think about it whenever we're thinking about projects and funding and resources and dollars. So what would it take to just run the business? If we were going to do nothing else, what would we need to do to maintain that? How would that look? What does the resourcing look like? What does the capital piece of it look like? What does the expense piece of it look like? And really focusing on that, because then that gives you if you're doing zero-based budgeting or something, you can say, well, look, if I do nothing else just to keep the lights on and keep running, I got to do these things, right? And then you can look at that growth, right? So we're going to open new locations or do new whatever that grow the business piece of that layer looks like. You got that component. And then you can say, okay, here's the transformational stuff that we're layering on top. And just looking at it and analyzing it and looking at, are you allocating resources right? I think is key. Allocating, not necessarily here, but in other lives, we've actually had sort of a run team and a transform team. Like we actually separated the two functions and say, okay, this is the production support run team, and this is the transformational team that's going to handle the transformational projects. I don't know that that's appropriate everywhere, but those are some things that the tools that I use to try to make sure we use to try to make sure we're doing the right thing.
That's right. Run, grow, transform. I heard that somewhere before, and it's making sure that you have all three and are kind of balancing that all. It's probably in flux or not in equilibrium, if you will. Sometimes you need to do more of the running, and sometimes you have lowered that. Right. You've stabilized that enough where you can focus more on transforming.
And then the transform will feed the run, because as you've created the transformational project, it just grows into that baseline, and now you're running the transformation that you did last year, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then I can only imagine then that the growing part too is the things you are running. A lot of them aren't just as technology develops and changes. The things you are running have to also kind of incrementally change also, and so it's
exactly.
So it's kind of a lot to balance and look at for sure.
For sure.
And then you add in human resources, and then all of a sudden you're you, both for the company and I guess for you individually. What are some goals and projects moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at growth. I mean, so it's interesting. Housing in America there's just not enough houses in the U.S. right now. So the building industry is growing, construction is growing. From World War II until 2008, we built about 1.2 million single-family homes in the United States.
Wow.
And then the financial crisis hit in 2008. World coming to an end, Great Recession, all those kind of things. And since then, for 12 years. You never got back over 1 million homes being built in the country. So you've got this supply-demand problem with housing, right? So trying to figure out, how do we grow? How do we support the growth? You've got all the things going on with interest rates and housing affordability and, what's going to happen there. And, boomers are not moving out of their house. So you've got a supply and demand problem with housing. And we're trying to figure out, how do we help our customers build more single-family homes, multifamily homes in the United States? So growth is key for us. Growing existing markets, growing new markets. We are hiring like crazy as well to support that growth as we continue to grow. So, those are some of the key pieces of it. We're vertically integrated. We've got manufacturing in addition to just, what we do on the building material supply side. We've got components that we do. We've got engineered wood product. We've got installed sales. We actually will do some of the labor for you and some turnkey stuff. So diversifying the business, growing the business is part of the top line strategy.
Yeah. And how is IT aligning with that? What are the
we are so technology across all of those, right? So, it's what are we doing in our manufacturing divisions and what kind of technology are we placing there? We've got lots of stuff that we're doing in some of those areas. Just being able to modernize some of the technology that we've got, some of the automation that we talked about in the past, the visibility, the decision making as we roll in new locations. How do we ramp them up? Training and tools and techniques that we're doing there. Lots of stuff like that we're just trying to figure out, how do we support this? How do we grow it? And partnering with our, installed sales divisions and our, building a new platform out there for some mobility things and taking technology to the job site, to be able to walk, construction projects and understand those kind of things.
You got to be everywhere. 2 more questions for you. The first one is kind of a wish list question. And actually, guests really struggle with this, which is a good thing because it's almost like, oh yeah, I got what I need. If you could have anything you wanted or needed to help you do your job better, easier, what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I could wave a magic wand, so I don't know that's something that I need that I can't get, but something that was, if I could, pixie dust and magic, I would say, change management is challenging, right? Change is hard, right? Somebody that's been doing something, even though it may be better, change is difficult, right? So communication and just awareness and all the things of helping people understand the change would be, if I could make that easier, I would love we've got lots of strategies and lots of approaches to do that, but I would still love to be able to say, oh yeah, this, the person did it yesterday this way and tomorrow they're going to do it this way and they're going to love it and it's going to be easy and they won't have to relearn things that they did. And, cause it's tough. I mean, people get into habits and people do what they do and they do it the way that they've done it. And even though you're trying to make it better, we're human beings, right? Everybody thinks the way they do it is the right way. It should be done. Right. So that's probably a piece. The geographic diversity makes it interesting too. We are a very entrepreneurial company. So 310 locations, it's almost like 310 individual businesses like these. We have really entrepreneurial store managers that are out there driving their top line and managing that bottom line P&L. And they sort of do it within the guardrails of the systems and the inventory and the way the processes we've provided, but there's some creativity out there and they do things. And so, we've done things like pilots and, we are probably 80-20. We did it in this market and it's 80% of the solution that we need in this market, right? Florida is different than California, which is different than Phoenix, which is different than Pennsylvania, right? So, if I could just wave that wand and say change management would be easy and everybody would do everything the same way forever and ever, amen, that would be easy. But, that's not reality either.
I think that's the best answer. I love what you said earlier in the podcast where you said, let's assume money and resources are unlimited. Let's assume we have everything we could possibly want, but our capacity to change is still limited. So no matter how much we have, we still have to go at the pace of the willingness and capacity to accept change. And I think that's a really cool way to shift that, because I think, sometimes it doesn't matter how much you have because it's still too overwhelming for the people to embrace all that change at once. And so, I think that would also be my magic wand answer, not just in IT, but in life in general. Why can't we be more willing to change?
Absolutely.
The final question, what are some of the greatest things you've learned in your career that you didn't already say that you'd like to share with the audience?
I think a couple things. One, people matter, right? It's all about the people. Like no matter what you're doing, if you don't like the people that you work with and who you're doing it with, and, at the end of the day, have a pot. So a mentor once gave me some really good guidance, and there's a lot of things that you can't control in life, but every day you can choose your attitude. I think you choose your attitude and your outlook is critically important, and caring about people and taking care of people are probably number one. And if you do that, most of the rest of things will fall in line. But, choose your attitude, come with the right attitude, the right outlook, the right perspective, the right humbleness, the right communication, and the right sort of do the right thing kind of stuff. I think that will serve you well in your life, in your career. And, I think you can put your head on the pillow and, hopefully that's what guidance I would give and, words to live by. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just love that, as a tech leader, still at the end of the day, people matter. And that is always first. And you said it earlier that you aren't a tech guy for tech's sake. It is there to solve business problems or people's problems, right? Same kind of concept.
Yep.
So
if what we're doing is helping people, we're doing the right things.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Paul, thank you so much for this conversation. This was awesome. I really appreciate kind of your outlook on life, on IT, on how to be a leader. And I hope anyone else listening kind of gets that too. So I just want to say thank you for your time. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the time. Thanks for having me. And, wish you all the best too. Good luck with the podcast.
Yeah, thank you. All right, take care.
Take care. Thank you.
VCOM Solutions is here to help make your IT projects and day-to-day operations as easy and efficient as possible. If you'd like to see how VCOM can help your organization save time and money, request a demo at vcomsolutions.com/demo. Do you work in IT? Be a guest on Braindrop. Go to vcomsolutions.com/Braindrop guest to sign up. Thanks again for dropping in. Don't forget to subscribe, and you can find us on social media at VCOM Solutions. Until next time.